It is February 27, 2018. Seemingly ordinary day unfolds in County Fermanagh. On this seemingly ordinary morning, a quiet Tuesday routine was about to be shattered. A group of people noticed a black smoke billows from a nearby house in their neighborhood. Alarmed, residents rushed towards the scene. They see a house engulfed in flames. They immediately inform the fire department, and their neighbors quickly come to help. When they get close, they see a man named Daniel Sebastian Allen standing at the front door of the burning house. He has his hands raised in the air, roaring and shouting, "Don't go in there." Locals try to move Allen away from the door, but they are unable to. They ask him if anyone is inside, to which he replies, "Gone." Confused, the locals cannot understand what he is trying to tell them. But they assume that there are people inside the house. Then, one resident briefly enters the house but is forced to retreat due to the heat. Another tries to gain access with a sledgehammer but also has to withdraw due to the intense flames. All these efforts are made while Allen remains standing at the front door. Their landlord, Tommy Fee, later describes how he and his neighbors desperately tried to save those inside the burning bungalow.
I tried to see what I could do, and I looked into the bedroom windows and I looked in, tried to get in through the door, and it was then that we got a sledgehammer and we broke down the door and two windows.
The fire and rescue service arrived shortly after, but by then, the house is completely on fire and the roof has also fallen in. One fireman observes Allen standing at the front door, rocking back and forth even as the roof collapses near him. Meanwhile, another firefighter hears him saying, "I'm sorry," and they are all gone. The fire crew fought the blaze from outside. Upon learning of a trapped family, they immediately entered the property. The house is completely destroyed, with debris scattered everywhere. Inside a bedroom, they find the body of a woman who has been badly burned. Realizing that nobody could have survived, the crew withdraws and searches the other bedrooms, where they discover 3 more bodies. The 4 people were identified as Denise Gossett, a 45-year-old woman found in the bedroom with her hands handcuffed to a bed. Roman Gossett, a 16-year-old boy, was Denise's son. Sabrina Gossett, a 19-year-old girl, was Denise's daughter. And a 15-month-old baby named Morgana Quinn was also Denise's infant daughter. All 4 people, including Allen, belong to the same family. When police arrive, they observe Allen standing at the front door. The officers ask him to move away but are met with repeated denials, "I can't." They inform him it's unsafe, and when he refuses to comply, they physically remove him to safety. Paramedics examine him in the back of an ambulance, where he repeatedly says, "A promise is a promise." He speaks about his partner and her children, claiming he promised to put them to the next life because they didn't want to stay here no more. He adds that they didn't want to be buried, repeating, "I am sorry, I am sorry." He appears deeply distressed and emotional. After being taken to the hospital in Enniskillen for smoke inhalation treatment, a nurse notices a lighter fall from his pocket, raising suspicions. She immediately informs the police. These suspicions are further strengthened when the forensic team examines the house and discovers the fire was deliberately started using strips of fabric soaked in heating oil distributed throughout the house. While in the hospital, Allen asks the police if anyone survived. When they inform him no one did, he is arrested shortly thereafter. During questioning, Allen admits to starting the fire. When asked how many people were inside, he mentions his partner, Denise, and her daughters, Sabrina and Morgana. However, he does not mention Roman. But the question remains, why would he burn his own family? Let's first delve into the background of the Gossett family. The Gossett family arrived in Derrylin in December 2016. Prior to moving there, they resided in various locations, including Scotland and Tralee. They rented a property on Doon Road for 14 months. All 4 members, Denise, Roman, Sabrina, and Morgana, were very close to each other. In contrast, Allen seemed like an outsider in the family. Although all the children were biologically his, he never truly treated them as his own. Their mother, Denise Gossett, was the heart and soul of her family, always there for her children's. Allen originally hailed from the Midlands area of England and met Denise online. Initially, he lived with her and her family in Scotland. They then moved to Ireland, settling first in Tralee and then in Cavan. I couldn't find a great deal of information about the couple's relationship, but it is assumed that they were incredibly turbulent. However, their lives in Derrylin were shrouded in secrecy. They lived a quiet life and rarely went outside. Teenagers Sabrina and Roman weren't enrolled in schools or colleges. No outsiders weren't allowed entry into the house, not even the grocery delivery driver who dropped off their food at the door. Only a handful of people in the community even knew that the house was occupied. Some people suspected that Allen was controlling them, restricting them from leaving the house. They used different names and avoided contact with people and services that could potentially offer support. Those who did encounter them didn't even know their real names. Allen referred to himself as Samuel Quinn. Denise went by the name Crystal, and Roman was introduced as Edward. Further shocking revelations emerged when the post-mortem reports came in. 2 of the victims, Roman and Morgana, were found to have overdosed on GHB, a sedative and anesthetic drug that slows down the activity of the brain and central nervous system. Denise was found with soot staining in her lungs, indicating she was alive when the fire started but died from smoke inhalation. Sabrina, however, was already dead before the fire began. Allen claimed to have strangled Sabrina, but there was insufficient evidence to corroborate this claim. Her cause of death could not be determined due to the severe burns she sustained. When asked questions, Allen mostly gave answers of "I don't know" or "no comment." His clothes and personal effects were seized by the police. During a blood sample request, a set of blood-stained keys for handcuffs fell from his pocket. These keys matched the handcuffs used to restrain Denise Gossett to the bed. He told the police that Denise was wearing them and that "I loosened one hand before you came." After his arrest, Allen was presented in court to face charges. He showed no emotion during his appearances and continued to make false statements. In a defense statement, he claimed to be part of a suicide pact with both Denise and Sabrina. He also stated that Sabrina killed Roman and Morgana, then both Denise and Sabrina drank the GHB. He claimed Sabrina then handcuffed Denise to the bed before cutting her wrist. Regarding the fire, he stated that Denise and Sabrina had laid the fabrics on the floor before pouring oil on them. However, the judge expressed doubts about Allen's story. He stated it was a strange suicide pact where one person dies and one escapes uninjured. Allen also claimed he was a patient with paranoid schizophrenia, a condition characterized by distrust and suspicion towards others. However, he had never been formally diagnosed with the condition. The legal proceedings were delayed for 6 years to allow for the completion of psychiatric reports. None of the reports supported a defense of diminished responsibility, and the judge concluded that they only described Allen as having a personality disorder. The judge also delivered harsh criticism of Allen's character, describing him as having a very dangerous and disturbing makeup. Despite Allen's claims of a suicide pact, the judge emphasized that the killings required planning and were not simply a result of a sudden detachment from reality. The court also learned that Allen had been jailed for 4 months in 2015 for threatening to kill a previous partner. In the months before the fire, he was in contact with a woman in the United States whom he met through the online game World of Warcraft. In December 2017, he told her his relationship with Denise had broken down and discussed moving to America. His defense lawyer raised the question of whether this was the motive for the killings. "The truth is we do not know, and more than likely, we never will." The lawyer stated, "It was an impossible exercise to establish evidentially what happened, and the only person who could offer an explanation was utterly unreliable." Although the prosecution did not accept Allen's claims of a suicide pact and described his version of events as false and implausible, they did accept his guilty plea to manslaughter of Denise by reason of a suicide pact. Allen's guilty plea avoided a trial and reduced the minimum term of his life sentence. He will now serve a minimum of 29 years behind bars before he is eligible for release, meaning he is unlikely to be freed until at least 2047, considering time already served. Detective Inspector Hazel Miller played a crucial role in coordinating the investigation and providing support to the victims' families. In a statement read outside the court, Samantha Gossett, Denise Gossett's oldest daughter, described her mother as her rock. She stated, "My beautiful mother was taken from me. My younger brother and sister, Roman and Sabrina, along with Sabrina's wee baby Morgan, are all gone too. Their 4 lives were taken in a fire started deliberately. And it breaks my heart to think on what happened, to think on how they died." She added that it was very difficult to convey such a loss in words. Later, around 100 people from various parts of the Derrylin community gathered for a multi-denominational service at the local parish church, led by Reverend Alistair Donaldson and Father Gerard Allwill. Joining them were Denise's daughter, Samantha Gossett, and her husband, James Dickens, who had traveled from Birmingham. Prayers were offered for the Gossett family, the neighbors and friends who attempted to help during the fire, and the emergency services who responded. This event, held a month after the tragedy, highlighted the ongoing shock within the community and their unwavering support for the remaining family members. Additionally, Principal Pat McTaggart of nearby St. Aidan's High School expressed heartfelt condolences and revealed that the school had recently held assemblies offering prayers for all the family members affected by the tragedy. And that's all for today. Subscribe to our channel for more such stories and comment down below if any true crime case you want me to cover.